Okay, what's up everybody? Pastor Matt here. Thought I would take a few moments to give a little ministry update since our lives are in constant flux, and I tend to get a lot of questions about how we're doing as a family, where we're at, what's going on, so I thought I'd just do this little update here. A lot has been going on. First of all, the house here in Florida has been sold, so we are officially homeless. We'll be vacating the premises, living with some friends, and then ultimately moving up north to Pennsylvania here in a matter of a few weeks. Pretty stressful. I don't enjoy moving very much. I don't like the whole thing, the boxes, the moving. It's all a lot. I like my normal, constant, everyday, regular routine life. So moving is just a weird thing. Hope I never have to move again. That's for sure. Have been doing a lot in terms of my PCA reception process. Had to take the written exams because I'm transferring from the EPC. If I was a PCA guy transferring into another Presbyterian, it'd be a little bit easier. But as an EPC guy transferring into the PCA, I had to do the written exam. So Bible exam, had to do Westminster Standards exam and church government or polity exam for the PCA, all written exams. They were hard, but I passed them all, so good news there. Actually got better grades than I thought. I was halfway through the standards exam and I thought, oh my goodness, I'm in for it. And I ended up getting a 88 on that exam, 87.5 on polity, and then I got a 96 on the Bible. The Bible exam felt real good right off the bat. You know, when you're golfing, you hit a golf ball and it just feels right off the swing. The Bible exam felt good. And then last week, I had to do my Candidates and Credentials Committee exam. And if you're not familiar with that, Presbyterian churches they tend to really safeguard their pulpits, and especially the conservative denominations like the PCA, very conservative denomination, which I'm glad for. So I went through a 6-hour and 15-minute oral examination in front of a board, 6 other guys, professors and pastors, and we went through all the main categories, about an hour each, in Bible, theology, polity, church history, my personal conversion. I did have to preach a sermon for the Candidates and Credentials Committee as well. They did ask for me to do a Hebrew exegesis paper. I had to do Psalm 110, a fresh translation, exegesis of the text. That's because my Hebrew is a little bit weird. I did 2 years of Greek, both at undergraduate and at graduate. But my Hebrew, I did a personal guided study with a mentor, not for credit. We spent a year studying Hebrew. So because that was not accredited, they ended up asking me to write an exegesis paper. So I did that. Also asked for a sample of my theological writing, and so I gave them a chapter that I'd done for one of the Yale projects, the New Directions in Jonathan Edwards Studies. There's a book coming out on Edwards and the Enlightenment, so I sent in my chapter for that, and that sufficed for that. That's a lot of testing. Oral exams, written exams. Of course, it's taken for granted that you already have a seminary education in the Presbyterian tradition. Presbyterians have a very high view of education and credentialing, and I know that can be controversial in other church settings. You know, there are some churches where it's like, hey, if you got a clean shirt and a big King James Bible, you're good to go to be ordained or installed or whatever. And I'm not making light of different traditions, but the Presbyterians are very hard to go through the ordination and installation process. And honestly, I think that's good. If you're going to get surgery, then you would want a skilled and qualified surgeon, wouldn't you, to trust your body? If you're going to get on an airplane, you want to make sure this guy has been tested and knows how to not only take off but land the thing too, and that's really important. And so I think the same for, the care of your soul, your pastor, your minister, the one who's going to teach and unfold the Word of God to you on a regular basis. He had better be competent and qualified. I'm not saying that degrees and certifications are everything, but certainly the scriptures do say that a man is to be tested first before he's entrusted with leadership. So when we look at 1 Timothy 3 and Titus 1, Even Acts 6 on the early deacons. These are meant to be entrusted with ministry responsibilities and leadership. They are to have Christian character, knowledge, and faithfulness. And so the PCA and other Presbyterian protocols for receiving ministers, even transferring ministers, they're very strict. Now you say, yeah, but Pastor Matt, you've been in ministry since you're 23. Yeah, I know, but they still have the right to grill me and test me. They have the right to do that, and it's good. You say, but you've been ordained for almost 12 years. I know, I know. But not all ordinations are the same. They don't all have the same strictness. You say, but Pastor Matt, you've written books and articles and chapters. I know, I get it. But the presbytery has the right of first refusal. And in fact, the examination process still is not even complete. Even though I've done all that, I still will have to stand for the presbytery floor later next month and be examined one more time, another 2-hour oral exam. This time it'll be before all the ministers of the whole presbytery. If you forget, presbytery is a region of churches in a geographic area, so all the pastors will be there, ruling elders representing their churches, and I'll have another 2-hour floor exam. And I don't resent it at all. In fact, I think it's good. I've been on the other side of those exams for my former denomination, the EPC. I used to be the chair of the committee that ran those kind of exams, and I think it's very, very important. And having done the other side of those examinations, not only being tested, but testing myself, we've found some people that honestly, they're not qualified for ministry, and they shouldn't be in the pulpit of a Bible-believing, evangelical, and reformed congregation. So I don't resent it. In fact, I like it. There's a weird part of me that kind of enjoys the exams. Once I get into them, of course, I'm nervous as all get out going into it. But once you get into it, man, it's kind of fun. It's this back and forth. What's this mean? What's that mean? How do you define this? What do you believe about that? And it's actually kind of a thrill to go through these exams. So I enjoy the process. I will look forward to it being over in a few more weeks when, Lord willing, I'm received by the presbytery. And that is not a foregone conclusion. It's not perfunctory at all. They do have the right to refuse me, even as far as I've gone in the process. So, Lord willing, we're praying that would all go well. I wanted to address a couple other things regarding my transition in life and in ministry. Many of you have asked me about YouTube sermons. Will my preaching still be available on YouTube? The answer to that is I hope. I hope it will, but it won't be on the Faith Church page anymore. Of course, the Faith Church page on YouTube will feature the preaching of those men who were entrusted to the ministry here at this church. So Pastor Anthony, Pastor Dave, whoever else will preach in the pulpit, that's who you'll see on the Faith Evangelical Presbyterian Church YouTube page. However, I am hoping to establish as soon as possible the technology that is requisite to post my preaching at Gospel Fellowship PCA on YouTube as well. To the moment, I don't believe they have video podcasting or vodcasting, YouTube, Vimeo. I don't think they have anything available, so we'll have to get that going. So that'll take a little bit of time. If you're used to checking in on my sermons, every week, then hold off. We'll get that rolling as soon as it's feasible. Until then, they do record the audio at Gospel Fellowship. I won't start preaching there, by the way, until September at some point, I would imagine. I don't have a firm date of what my first date in the pulpit will be, but it will be soon enough. So we'll get there when we get there. The other thing that I wanted to mention today has to do with my role at the Westminster Society in the EPC. If you're not familiar, the EPC has a really cool networking group called the Westminster Society, focuses on ordinary means of grace ministry, theology. We have a journal that we put out every year at the General Assembly. Of course, I had a huge part in the foundation of that networking group and edited the journal for a couple of years, contributed to the journal, taught at some of the networking and breakout ministries at General Assembly. Of course, I will not be carrying on in that way anymore. However, I will be passing on the editorial duties to the Westminster Society Journal to Zach Hopkins, an amazing, colleague of mine in the EPC. So the Westminster Society Journal will be in better hands, which is cool. However, this year's journal did recently come out. Our assembly, the EPC assembly, was last week, and the journal came out. It's amazing. I wrote a chapter myself. I edited the other chapters, so if there are any mistakes, it's all my fault. But I'll post a link to that in the description of this video if you want to get it. It's a great book on ordinary means of grace. My chapter is called The Beauty of the Local Church. We had some great contributors. Scott Redd, the president of RTS Washington, wrote a chapter on the headship of Christ. Mike Gallodo, professor at RTS Orlando, wrote a chapter on the church in the Old Testament. Zach wrote a chapter. David Hoffelmeyer wrote a chapter on one of the Psalms. Some really good scholar pastors contributed to this year's journal. So again, link in the description of this video if you want to get that. But I won't be doing the Westminster Society or the journal anymore. I'll have to pass that off. And that does make me sad because it was kind of my baby for a while in the EPC. But this year, all the events were packed, standing room only for all the events. We've been asked already to do the assembly again next year, given even more time than we have ever had before at the assembly for teaching and instruction. So very cool stuff. Lots going on. We'll pray for our family. Again, we're in flux. We got boxes all over the house, half in, half out, feet in both worlds. I feel like, you ever see one of those cartoons where it's like one foot is on the ground and the other foot is on an iceberg that's moving away and you got to hop on and go. That's kind of where we're at right now. But stay tuned, stay subscribed to this channel. I'll try to give more updates, and the preaching stuff will get up and rolling in due time. All right, so pray for me through all the exams, and I love you lots, and I'll talk to you later. Thanks for checking in.